Hey guys, welcome to Mitch's Vinyl Corner and thanks for stopping by. So today I'm actually going to do a video that's a little bit different than what I've done from the past. I'm actually going to do the Vinyl Tag 2025. Now, for those who don't know, I don't remember actually who started it. I believe it was somebody in the UK within the vinyl community um, started this tag 2025, and it's a series of questions that are given to within the vinyl community for people to answer. So there's a series of 20 questions, and I figured I would do it. So big shout out to Graybeards Nation, who I had the pleasure of meeting yesterday at the Washington Record Show in Washington, North Carolina, about an hour and a half from where I'm at here. So I decided, hey, I think I'm just going to do it and participate myself. So with that, I'm going to go through these questions, and forgive me while I look at my phone. I'm actually doing these questions because I got out the records that tied to these questions, but I didn't remember them off of heart. So I'm going to be looking at my phone throughout this. So bear with me. So the first question is the best purchase of 2024, new or old? That's an easy one for me. And that would be my original pressing Monarch of the Stooges' self-titled debut. Now, I got this at a flea market here where I'm at in North Carolina, and it was $40, and it was pretty much almost stone cold mint. And I'm sorry for the glare, guys, here. And this thing is still in the shrink wrap and still has the inserts, and the vinyl is excellent. And this thing goes for well over a couple $100. I've seen a couple go for 800-900, but those are probably sealed, probably like white label promos. But this is definitely my best purchase of the year. $40 for something that was definitely at least a couple $100. So pretty much made out on this one. The next one is 50 years later, best album from 1974. Again, pretty easy one for me. And that would be Steely Dan's Pretzel Logic. This is my second favorite Steely Dan album behind Gaucho, which is my favorite. You got awesome tracks on here, Night by Night, Ricky Don't Lose That Number, Pretzel Logic, the title track, Monkey in My Soul. It's just a really, really good Steely Dan album. Highly recommended. Next one is an album that defines a genre. So I had to think about this one for a little bit with what I had in my collection. And I had to stumble upon this guy, which you've seen probably on my channel here before. Nirvana's Nevermind. This pretty much defined the grunge era and defined rock music for probably the next 20 to 30 years. When this thing came out in 1991, it sounded like rock was getting back to basics. The 80s were kind of overblown with different types of rock music that, like hair metal. And I'm not shitting on hair metal. I mean, I like a little bit of hair metal here and there, but I think everyone was ready for just rock to get back to basics. And this album definitely proved it. So this is a Palace pressing, which is still in print, cut by Bernie Grundman from the original analog master tape. So highly recommend you pick this one up because originals go for ridiculous money. Next one is best band from your home country. I obviously live here in the United States, so Seattle's own Pearl Jam. This might be controversial to some people because there's a lot of other great American bands that I have in my collection that I do love. I think Pearl Jam is probably the best one, if not in at least the last 30 years, it's probably the best American rock band. And definitely, in my opinion, the best American rock band of all time. I'd like to hear your thoughts about that in the comments. All right, the next one. An artist you miss dearly. Now, this is a front man for a band, so I definitely miss Freddie Mercury from Queen. I think Freddie Mercury was probably the best front man in rock history. He had a command presence while he was on stage from all of the videos that I've seen that was just unlike no other. He was able to just capture a crowd, hold them and just never let them go. He was in complete control when he was on stage. And he's probably one of the best, if not the best, probably vocalist of all time. And I say that with an asterisk. There's a couple people that I tie there with him. This would have been a great band to see with him at the front back in the 80s. Again, I'm about to be 39 here in a couple months, so Queen was well before my time. Freddie had passed when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, so never got a chance to see him. But that's somebody who I miss dearly. Best live album in your collection. I do have a lot of great live albums, but if there's one that truly stands above the rest, it is Liver Than You'll Ever Be by the Rolling Stones. Now, this is a bootleg, but it's probably the most well-known bootlegs out there, and probably the best sounding bootleg. So bootleg is an unauthorized recording, usually taken from like a soundboard or an audience recording, and they can vary from, very good sounding to very shitty sounding. This, I believe, was taken from a soundboard, and it sounds awesome. If you guys are familiar with Get Your Yayas Out, that was the second official Stones live album. That is the best one from their official releases, in my opinion. But this one was taken around the same time period. I believe this is. Let me see if there's a date on this. I believe this was from 1968, 1969, somewhere around there. So this is the Stones at their best. Raw, heavy, gritty, just the way I like it. Excuse me. Your partner just dumped you. What album are you putting on? I've been married for almost 15 years, so, got the best woman in the world. She puts up with all my shit, but God forbid something happens. Putting on Fleetwood Mac Rumors. The quintessential breakup album. Nothing more to be said there. Let's see. What's the next one? Again, sorry guys, I'm looking at my phone. Best sounding drums on an album. That one was not even a question. It's Led Zeppelin 4, Zoso. This is John Bonham at his finest. Because John Bonham is the greatest drummer of all time. There's nothing else to be said. Keith Moon, Neil Peart, Ginger Baker, Nick Mason, they all come pretty damn close, but there's nothing like John Bonham. And on Led Zeppelin 4, he just goes to town, and it's so drum heavy on this album. It's definitely my second favorite, probably second or third favorite Led Zeppelin album. But this is definitely where the drums shine the most for me. Let's see. Favorite artist who is a member of 2 or more bands. That's easy. My favorite artist of all time, Neil Young. He was with Buffalo Springfield and Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. And if you want to consider Neil Young and Crazy Horse as a band, it was pretty much just an extension of Neil Young himself. But yeah, Neil Young, my favorite artist of all time. Now this next question was pretty hard at first, but it was kind of close. Beatles or the Stones? I got to go with the Beatles. The Beatles edge the Stones out very, very, very narrowly. I love both these bands. I saw the Stones in concert back in 2013. One of the best shows I've ever seen. Obviously, never got to see the Beatles live, obviously. But their later work, the Beatles' later work, I think really just sets them apart from the Stones, in my opinion. Now, the Stones' later stuff is a lot better than their earlier stuff, same with the Beatles. But an album like Abbey Road, the Stones didn't come close to making something like a masterpiece like this, in my opinion. Like, when you put them up against each other, they're pretty much neck to neck. And then when you put on Abbey Road, it settles the debate for me right there. You found a bag of weed. What are you going to listen to? That's if I was able to do that, which I'm not for obvious reasons. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Enough said. That's the album I'm listening to. An album from the 1980s you still listen to. So again, I'm an 80s baby. I was born in the 80s, but the album that defined that decade is Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. This is an original pressing, by the way, original specialty pressing. So it came with the sticker, the band sticker with the cross, the hit singles, contains the explicit language, tag. It's got the band cover on the inside. So this is the album that defined the 80s for me. Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. Paradise City, Welcome to the Jungle, It's So Easy, Mr. Brownstone, Rocket Queen, just a kick-ass album. An artist whose political stance has soured you. Now, again, in my opinion, musical artists, have the freedom to express their opinions, 100%. However, lately, I think there's been a lot of artists that have just become part of the machine, the bigger picture. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to get on a political rant here, but it had to be the boss, Bruce Springsteen. I'm sorry. I mean, his earlier stuff, I'm a real big fan of. Everything from the E Street Shuffle to, I'd say, Tunnel of Love is my favorite Bruce Springsteen period. I think for most people that are into Bruce Springsteen, I'm not a fan of his later stuff. I'm sure it's fine, but it never really appealed to me like his early stuff. Like Born to Run's a classic. Probably my favorite album of his is Darkness on the Edge of Town. But yeah, he's just a whine bag. He's just an old man that just whines about everything political. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna get on a rant here. Let's see. Show a favorite record label. That's pretty easy. Blue Note. Blue Note is probably the best label out there, and definitely the best jazz label out there. There's Verve, there's Impulse, there's Riverside, really other great jazz labels that I'm a huge fan of, but the cream of the crop is Blue Note. And that's mainly because of the Tone Poet series and the Blue Note Classic series that are all analog, cut from the original analog tapes by Kevin Gray. Putting these great Blue Note albums out there for the next generation to enjoy and listen to the way it should be, because original of these go for ridiculous money, especially ones in good shape. Let some of these falling over here. A run of three great singles. A run of three great singles. So I assume they're asking what album had probably the best three singles on it. And that would be Who's Next by The Who. I'm picking Bubba O'Reilly, Won't Get Fooled Again, and Behind Blue Eyes. I'd throw a fourth in there for bargain, because those are the ones that you mainly hear on the radio. The Who's best album by far, and if you're looking for a really good pressing of this, stay far away from the MCA label, the rainbow looking ones. I'll put a picture up. Make sure you get a UK pressing on the track label. You can find them here. You have to look for them. I mean, they are a little hard to find, but if you're able to find one, get a Trax record, not the MCA cut. Let's see. A record store day purchase that you actually consistently listen to. I've bought a couple things from record store day. I'm not one that goes out and has to get everything on there. I did not participate this year because I bought the Rhino Hi-Fi box set of The Doors. so I didn't participate this year. But one of the best ones that I've gotten is a Doors title. So this, I think, came out in like 2017, 2018. So this is the Doors, curated for Record Store Day by Record Store Day. 8 studio and live tracks handpicked by indie record store owners. 180-gram vinyl mastered by Bruce Botnick, who is the pretty much the curator of everything The Doors. From the original master tapes, includes rare original mono mixes. Now that's pretty cool because the first side is all the original mono mixes of Break On Through, Soul Kitchen, Moonlight Drive, and When the Music's Over. And then on the flip side, you have the stereo version. You got Love Street, Unknown Soldier, Roadhouse Blues, which is a live cut, which is a killer live cut, and then 5 to 1. So this one's really, really good. You could probably get this on eBay or Discogs for maybe 50, 60 bucks. It's a little pricey because it's been out of print for a couple of years, but this is my favorite Record Store Day purchase. Excuse me, guys. Coffee is essential. If you can be reincarnated as any artist, dead or alive, who's it going to be? This one was kind of hard for me. I had to think about this one. Out of all the questions in this tag, this was the one I had to really think about. I would probably pick Robert Plant. And because Robert Plant is probably the best vocalist. I was talking about Freddie Mercury earlier. Him and Freddie Mercury are pretty neck to neck in the vocal department and in just being a front man in general. Robert Plant had the same stage presence, was able to capture an audience, still is today. And I think that's the reason why I picked him, because he's still going. And he's still kicking. He's doing a lot of great stuff with Alison Krauss, who I would love to see both of them in concert. I think it'd be really, really good. But if I had to pick anybody, it'd probably be Robert Plant. All right, so the next question was, let me see. What was it? So best 3 lines in a song. Now, I had to really think about this one for a little bit. So many great songs out there, but then I had to break it down to what are the best 3 lines. So I had to really go through a couple of songs, but I think it would have to be Like a Rolling Stone by Bob Dylan. The part where he goes, how does it feel? How does it feel to be without a home, to be on your own, like a complete unknown, like a Rolling Stone? And I think of this time during his career, he had just gotten back from a tour of Europe where, you know, everybody was really questioning what he was really doing, because this is right after he went electric at the Newport Folk Festival, which pissed a lot of people off. You know, they felt like he was becoming too commercial. He was going electric, so it did not really jive with a lot of people, a lot of his fan base, I should say. But I think Bob wrote this song to be like, hey, how does it, you don't know how I'm feeling, you know, to be like a Rolling Stone without a home, because now I've just alienated a lot of my fan base, but this is the direction that I want to go in. And if you don't like it, fine. If you want to come along with me on the journey, you know, feel free to. And that's just how I interpret it. You know, other people might have other interpretations of it, but I think, and definitely this is Bob Dylan's probably second best album. My favorite album of his is Blood on the Tracks. But an album you never tire of. That would be Dire Straits' self-titled debut. I think this is the Dire Straits' best album in my opinion. There's so many great. Every song on here is great, and I can listen to over and over again. Six Blade Knife, Setting Me Up, obviously Sultan's a Swing, Down to the Waterline. So many just great, unbelievable tracks on this record. It's a record that I would never get tired of, and it's definitely, if I was stranded on an island, I'd probably take this one. Again, coffee is life. Mm. So share your favorite VC channel. So I had to think about this one because there's so many great ones out there, and I've linked a lot of them who I follow and who I recommend that you should as well in the description of this video. But I've mentioned him a lot on this channel. It would have to be Mike from the In-Groove. I think he's definitely one of the best out there that promotes the vinyl community, really tells the truth about everything. You watch his videos and he will trash high-end audiophile records and tell you to buy cheaper ones that aren't, hundreds or thousands of dollars. And I would bet to say his collection probably amasses probably over $1 million. I mean, this guy has been an audiophile for years, and he takes this stuff very, very seriously. However, he is like just a regular common dude, and I think that's what we need more of in the vinyl community. Just common, down to earth guys that aren't pricks, because in the past, audiophiles have been known to just be snobby dudes that have high-end systems that cost a ridiculous amount of money, and if you tell them one way, if you give them your own opinion, it's not going to matter to them because only they know best because they have the best system and all that other bullshit. But I think he's definitely one of the best. He's probably my favorite. Now, I did want to mention a couple other ones too. There's Mazzy. Mazzy's another really good one. Graybeard's Nation. It was a pleasure meeting you guys yesterday, and definitely become a fan of your channel as well. Vinyl Latte, he's a local guy too, local Coastal Carolina. You got Noble Records, Dylan from Noble Records. He's great. He's a great guy. I love his channel. Hopefully, I can make it up to Charlotte one of these days to go to his store. His channel is really big, has a lot of followers. WCB Jazz is another great one for everything jazz. I watch his channel a lot. He talks about a lot of the good pressings. He does shootouts and stuff like that. Scott Lafario from the Pressing Matters. He's another good one too. I believe he's down in Miami. He does a lot of reviews as well. There are tons, and I'm probably missing some, and I'm sorry if I am, but there's a ton of them out there. And just do your research, find what you like, and pretty much go from there. So, yeah, I think that's all the questions. Again, this was actually kind of fun to do. I think the vinyl community should do more things like this, do more tags like this, and get more people involved to make videos and to get the message out there and be like, hey, the vinyl community is a fun community to be a part of. And, again, I've been collecting since 2003, but with my military career, it kind of took a pause for at least over a decade. But in the past couple of years, as my career has been starting to wind down before I retire, ultimately, I've really started to get back into it, and I've upgraded my system, my components, and really have curated my collection into how I want to collect. So it's a great community to be a part of. I think more people should get involved in it. You don't have to be an audiophile. You don't have to have $100,000 system. You don't have to have 40, 30,000 records or anything like that. Just get involved. It's a really cool community to be a part of, and I highly recommend you do it if you're not. But again, thank you everyone for stopping by, and I'll see you all next time.